Good afternoon, Facebook and YouTube viewers. I'm Rebecca Sismarski, and I am here today with Sheryl Hinman and Glenn Busse, and we are talking about their opportunity to volunteer at the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum. Can you guys tell us a little bit about the training process that you went through? You were saying it was kind of interesting and saw a lot of cool artifacts. For some behind the scenes.
I'll start out. One of the things that I really appreciated about the training was how thorough it was, and every section of it had something that interested me. I especially loved the section where we got a chance to see some of the fabulous acquisitions they've had. For example, one of the things that fascinated me while I was there was a copper letter, a letter that had been typed onto copper that had been given to Grant. And it was sent by some people who were encouraging him to be more favorable toward the copper industry. So that was just exciting and interesting to me.
Yes, the amazing thing is that a lot of times when you wind up saying, I want to volunteer someplace, they say, okay, good, go over there and they'll train you and get started. Whereas this situation we wound up with 11 hours of actual training. We wound up going down for two hours of just interviewing us and in a small group, just basically getting to know us. And then after that, we wound up, I'm just counting here, we had 12 different people coming in to give different views of the museum, seeing Lincoln's situation, the oral history department, acquisitions department, even how to deal with security. And so they really wanted us to have a total experience of it. They took us on a tour of the theaters, on a tour of the facility itself, with somebody who was a volunteer to explain different things. And so, yeah, it was the best training I've ever had.
Yeah,
in something.
Thumbs up as far as I'm concerned. I appreciated the patience they had and the desire to see if they can make sure that you are comfortable with everything that you're going to be doing. One of the things that I thought was impressive was, as you work in the museum, you may be stationed at a variety of places, and past volunteers have made up little subject cards. So let's say I'm going to be in the section where Mrs. Lincoln's dresses are. That's a favorite section for me. I could get a little subject card that would remind me of key things that people might be interested in knowing about that section. So that was exciting. Every section has cue cards, if you will, to help the volunteer.
Wow, and just so our viewers know, there's 17 total, right? You said?
Right, exactly. And I think part of it too, because it took a long time, I think they got to know every one of the people. We had a lady in our class who had never been to the museum, and she retired, and she said, well, let's see what it's about. And when we got done, I remember you asked her, and she's excited about doing it. So you don't have to have a lot of previous situation, because they explained it. And I think also they were looking to make sure they weren't trying to put square pegs into round holes. We had one guy who made it pretty clear that he was not willing to get on a bus with students and welcome them, but he was willing, they could figure out that there's another place where he would shine at. And so I think that was kind of cool too, because sometimes in volunteering they can do things where you're not comfortable, and all of a sudden you wind up saying, I don't want to do this anymore.
For instance, for me, I love photography, so one of my first volunteer options was to photograph a couple of events that took place at the museum, and they were involved with children. One was a program that they were doing called Civil War Tech, and children from 8 years old to 12 years old were invited in to learn about the disguises that people assumed when they were being spies during the Civil War, or in fact there were a number of women who disguised themselves as men and were soldiers. So the kids learned that, and then they had a chance to disguise themselves, and I was photographing that as they were involved in the workshop. And another one that was very special to me was an opportunity to photograph many of the exhibits that came in for History Day when students had projects on topics of interest to them. And I had a chance to photograph some of those and also to talk to the kids who had produced the research and the projects.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
As far as the volunteers too, going back to the training, you guys have loved the Civil War for a long time. How did it feel to be around other volunteers who shared your passion and staff members?
Well, anytime you're around somebody who loves your same interest, that is just phenomenal. When I last fall, when I walked into the museum and saw somebody and started talking, that person was almost the very first person that was ever picked as a volunteer, mm-hmm. and is still there. Mm-hmm. And that was the neat thing, is to realize the museum has been open 14 years now, and there are people who have volunteered that entire time. They're approaching 600 volunteers at the museum, which is just phenomenal. And when one of our, I think it was our initial training session, we walked out, and the next wave of volunteers were coming in, and all of a sudden they said, all right, you got to sign up for the Tuesday afternoon room. We have the most fun, and you can see that there was just,
they were just glowing.
They were just glowing, yeah. And that we worked together. They were saying that there's some people that are always there at Wednesday afternoon. That's their niche. They just put that on their calendar, and mm-hmm. so it's got to be something that's very unique and exciting, that people who don't have to be there. Most of these people are retired, mm-hmm. and have chosen to come there and give their time to further the museum's and Abraham Lincoln's legacy.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Sheryl? How did it feel for you?
Oh yeah, I found it really fun to talk to some of the people that were doing volunteer training as well. I mentioned before, I have always enjoyed journalism and things of that sort, and talking to one lady as I walked out about her interest in oral history, because there is an opportunity to take oral histories and to transcribe the oral histories that have been done by others. And I could just see that had motivated her to come and do that. I had a chance to do oral histories in 1976 at Lombard Junior High with some students, and that was an exciting experience. And I thought, I can just see how somebody would be excited about walking in and doing this and preserving it in a place like the the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Museum and Library. That facility is so well organized and so impressive that you know that what you do is going to further a very long-range goal for the state of Illinois.
Absolutely. And my final question for you both, we were talking about earlier, you've been interested in the Civil War for a long time, but was there anything you've learned new at the museum that you didn't know before about the time period?
I have to think a second on it, because we've done a lot of writing about it. I think it's all the small little stories that keep coming up. That you deal with. For instance, one of the things, there's a section of the museum that deals with the way the press treated Lincoln, and they have the newspapers and things of the times. And a lot of people talk about today about the way in which politics is viewed, and you come back and say nothing's new under the sun. They called Lincoln the gorilla and some of those things. And so to reread those newspaper clippings of the way, it just reaffirmed to me, going, wow, what a leader Lincoln was, to be able to deal with those kind of situations and the death threats that existed. I was remembered back, because I saw there's a place where you can see Lincoln's desk, and of course today that's the Lincoln bedroom, but that was Lincoln's office back in the White House, and he actually had a cubby hole where he put the death threat letters in. Very few people knew that, because he just continually got those kind of things and was still able to persevere through that. I'm just constantly reaffirmed about what a tremendous man that he must have been to do that. I couldn't do it.
Now for me, one of the things that impresses me about the library, and I was excited about, is when we were doing our volunteer training, one of the things that was emphasized, that there's so many ongoing new items that come in. And I've always been interested in the special exhibits that come in. For example, there's a brand new one that's opening on Friday, March 23rd, that talks about the 4 presidents who have come from Illinois. And so you have Lincoln and Grant and Reagan and Obama. And I was fascinated by the list of items that are going to be on exhibit. Every one of them I thought, oh, I want to see that. Oh, I want to see that. One of the options that you have while you're there is when you're in that special section of the new exhibit, you're going to be able to take a trivia contest about the presidents. I thought, oh, I want to try that one out. And you'll also be able to stand at a podium that has the look of a presidential podium and recite the Gettysburg Address. That will be on videotape for you so that you can read and recite that. And I thought, what a fascinating thing it would be to stand in that museum and speak those universal classic words.
That would be
and
awesome.
At the same time have your family videotape you doing it. That'd be a lot of fun. I can see a lot of kids, I can see a lot of people who would enjoy doing that.
Definitely. And just so the viewers know, what date is that on again? Sorry.
That will start Friday, March 23rd, so here we are, starting today, and that will go through the rest of the year. So I would really like to encourage you, if you're going to be down around Springfield, stop in and see that. You may even see me, in the museum or Glenn, but you'll certainly see very enthusiastic volunteers, I think, at that museum. I can tell by everybody I met how much people are committed to being volunteers for that organization.
Well, that's great. And you guys have a great time and enjoy. And thank you for being with us today and talking about it.
Thank you.